Welcome to another season of Hoda's Career Info, the program where career professionals from across the globe meet to empower you to succeed. This program is brought to you by Right Career Fit. Listen and learn, and remember to have that very important career conversation with a career professional.
The question I ask my clients is, what industry do you want to give your energy to? We are starting to break down jobs into projects. And part of that is so that they can use AI to automate certain parts of certain jobs. Our clients could really benefit from career practitioners who niche and specialize in different areas of career development.
Thank you for joining me in Hoda's Career Info, your career program where guests from across the globe share career tips and personal stories to help you successfully navigate your career. I am Hoda, your host. I look forward to another season of career chats with international professionals who will inspire you to take your journey to the next level. My guest today on Hoda's Career Info is Ann Nakaska. Ann is a career consultant who is very concerned about the changing workplace and how these changes are leaving people of all ages disconnected from the world of work. Ann has a background in business, psychology, and education, as well as career development. She specializes in strategic career planning using critical thinking skills, focusing on exploration, analysis, and evaluation of industry knowledge and trends. Ann believes industry knowledge is key to being successful in the fourth industrial revolution. She loves reading about business, entrepreneurship, and innovation. She has been described as someone who visually leads us into the future in a warm and positive way, giving people hope and inspiring them to engage and connect with the future workplace. I cannot wait to hear what Ann has to say and how she will help us get ready for the future. Welcome, Ann Nakaska. Thank you so much for joining me. I've watched many of your conference presentations, read many of your articles, and I'm so excited to have you today join me so we can have a very exciting discussion. And I always start my program by asking my guests to choose one career term that reflects the work they do and the services they offer. What would be your one? I know it's tough, but what would be your one term?
So my one term is really, it's about connectedness to industry. And it's through better career decision-making and creating better critical thinking skills. So what I find is that because of all the different factors that are impacting the workplace, a lot of people are getting disconnected from society in different ways and the workplace in different ways. And so what I really hope that my work does is bring people together back with industry so that we work in better ways. And I believe that we do that through helping people with their critical thinking skills.
Such an important word and definitely needed in today's world, as we all try to unravel the meaning of life and what we're doing, the meaning of the work we do as well. Another question I usually ask my guests is the personal story. You don't have to share all of it, but whatever you feel is important that you can embed with it a message that you'd like to share by joining me today.
Sure. Great. So I started out in business and accounting. Actually, I was a joint venture auditor in the oil and gas industry. When I had my family, I went to work in contract back with a couple of my employers. And then I found I spent most of my time in the audit room helping my fellow auditors, who are mostly men, with their personal problems. And I thought maybe I should go and take psychology instead. So I did that. I went back to school after my kids went started school. I went back to school and did my BA in psychology. I did a lot of my studies in cognitive psychology because I really like to learn how people think. And then after that, I was going to say, what do I do with this general psychology degree? And I thought, I think I'd like to work in the schools. So I decided I would become a school career practitioner. And so then I got my career development certificate, and then I got my CDF training in the States so that I would have a wider range of sort of reach with the work that I do. And then I was thinking about what else I wanted to do. And I thought the best way to sort of expand my work is through education. And so I did a master's of education in adult education and workplace learning. Now that's sort of the bullet points of my career. But where I think it ties together with the work that I do is I really wish there was somebody like me back when I was younger that could have helped connect me to industry better. So for example, when I was working in accounting, I wasn't crazy about the industry I was in. It was okay. I love lots of things about my work. I still love, when I think back on it, there were lots of things that I really enjoyed about the work that I did. But when I think about, had somebody said, well, you could do accounting in the construction or new home build industry, or you could do accounting in tourism, or you could do accounting in the transportation industry, like aviation. That would have changed my whole mindset about what I wanted to do. And I would have become embraced into industry and been more interested in how what I do can help industry and how industry can help me, because it really is a relationship back and forth between the employee and the employer, or the sole business owner, whatever. We're all part of industry. And that's a big part of the connectedness that I think is important. So we ask, as career practitioners, we always ask, what's your passion? We're very concerned about the individual. But a question that I used to be asked when I was younger was, what are you going to do to contribute to society? And a question I ask my clients is, what industry do you want to give your energy to? Because we get up every day and we give, 40, 50 hours of work or whatever to an industry. Well, which industry do you want to help build? Because that's what you're doing every day. You're getting up and you're helping build an industry. So which one do you want to help? What do you want to do to contribute to that greater workplace society? And unfortunately, in my career, I didn't have that. And so I know that that's a big part of my work and why I do it. The other part of my work is that I read the book Job Shifts. So right at the time I was graduating from my first career development certificate, when I read this book, I went, we're not ready. We're not ready for all the technological changes, all the, the push on climate change, the demographics and the baby boomers retiring. There's all these changes, immigration, that are impacting the workplace, and we're not ready for it. And so that's when I decided I wanted to be part of the education. I wanted to be part of helping all these people who were going to be displaced out of the workforce in different ways. And how can we bring them back in? How can we make them part of the workplace if that's what they want? I mean, if they don't want to be, that's a whole nother topic. But, I think of like the baby boomers who would not get a guaranteed, you get to go to 65 and retire from a company and get a big pension and which they saw their parents have. And what happens too with the baby boomers is they haven't been necessarily changing jobs, so they don't even necessarily have a lot of career development skills to help them with those changes. So how are we going to bring those people back on board and educate them? How are we going to get our young people on board when, they're being told that their job is going to change, 5 or 12 times? That's overwhelming for young people. So with all of these changes impacting the workplace, how are we going to get all these people who are not feeling connected to the workplace or don't feel that they have a place in the workplace?
Thank you for sharing your story, Anne. And the concerns you brought is really behind my push for career literacy when I say we really need to talk about these things more and more often. So I'm glad you brought that up with your mission. I feel it is your mission right now to get out the word.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you're doing the work that you're doing, because it really is important. So
thanks. Yeah. Thanks. I appreciate that. And I've been following your articles for at least a couple of years now, but I still go and Google my guests when I have them come. So I looked up your profile and your website, and on your homepage, on the homepage of your website, you have the statement right smack in the middle almost of the homepage that states, "The world of work is changing. Are you ready?" It kind of, you just said we're not in the previous answer. But when I saw it, it almost felt like a warning for me, because I am an older worker, and it left me with a sense of, am I really doing what I need to do to be ready? How does one get ready for the world of work that's coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. So education is by far, number one, which is a big part of what you do, right? We need to educate people. So there's the education about what we need to know, and then there's the skills that we need to know that will help us, right? So I kind of look at those as two different things. So with the education piece, I think it's just important for people to be aware of what the fourth industrial revolution really is. What are the technologies? So the beginning of every one of my presentations, I always do a small summary of what the fourth industrial revolution is and all the different technologies that are happening. So then once people are kind of aware of that, it's like if we look back on the third industrial revolution. So the third industrial revolution is mainly computers and the computer era and the information age. And so if we can kind of think about how there were people using computers way before the vast majority of us were ever using computers, this technology took a while to kind of come on board. And that's what's happening in the fourth industrial revolution. 3D printers have been around for 30 years, but not all of us have a 3D printer in our house. But at some point in time, we probably will. And we'll probably do, some really wild, cool things with it, just like, we all use our home computers for doing different things. And so that's kind of understanding that this technology is out there and it's coming. So that's a big part of my presentations and educating people, just what's happening with all this technology and how is it changing our workplace. So that's kind of the education piece. The skills that we're going to need, one, the obvious one, well, we're going to need technology skills. Now, we are, but it's like we all use computers, but we all don't need to be computer programmers, and we all don't need to study computer science, right? So different people are going to need different levels of technological skills. So engineers who are working in aerospace are going to need a lot more technological skills than I'm going to need, right? And then, but what they are talking about, and the one skill that I found that came up a lot that I think is important is the coding and the programming. So those are technological skills that probably should be being integrated into the elementary school and school systems. So those technological skills are kind of probably the basics. So a lot of us are going to need to know how to do, a little bit more with technology. And the pandemic and Zoom and all of that certainly helped. It showed us how, a lot of us are not in touch with technology. I know as a small business owner, It's not my strength, and I'm learning how, to put in a system so that all my invoicing is automated and my calendars are automated and all of that. And that's a big thing for me because I'm not technological, but I understand the importance of it. The next skill that's really important is our entrepreneurial skills. We talk about the move towards a gig economy. And the reality is that whether it's contract work, which is one way that we're going to be, doing more contract work. So we're going to be doing more entrepreneurial work. But the other side of it too is that even within organizations, we are starting to break down jobs into projects. And part of that is so that they can use AI to automate certain parts of certain jobs. But part of it too is this fluidity that helps things move faster within an organization. So if people work on a project and then come apart and then they go, okay, now you're going to work on this project and you over here are going to work on that project, they can move people around and get things done faster in many ways than kind of the old ways of doing things. So in the journal that I help co-edit, there's a couple of articles on how that's happening in the workforce and like within industry. So thinking as an entrepreneur is really important because we're going to need those skills within an organization and we're going to need them outside the organization too. As automation takes over more sort of the general work, and it will be taking over a lot of work, we need to be able to do what William Bridges talked about in Job Shift, looking for work. So we're not going to be looking for jobs as much, we're going to be looking for work. And in order to be able to look for work and understand the work that needs to be done and to be able to do that, you need entrepreneurial skills to do that. So that's a big one, entrepreneurial skills moving forward. And then the third one that's really important is we do not see ourselves as part of the global workplace. We tend to think of ourselves as part of the local geographic workplace. And so what happens is that when we do that, we miss out on the opportunities that we have of being part of, this huge global workplace. So for example, you're doing these podcasts, they show up on YouTube. I'm sure that you have people from all over the world watching your podcasts, right? If you didn't do this, you would not be part of the global workplace. But how exciting is it that you get to do that? I remember when I did my master's program and I was talking with my supervisor, my professor, and I said, I really don't know about these online courses. So they were going to be my first online courses. And I love school. And I went, I don't know about this. I don't know how this is going to be. And she said to me, she said, it's amazing. She said, a bunch of my work, lots of times I'm down in Australia. So she works in Canada. And then lots of time with her research work, she would be in Australia. And she said, I love it. She said, I can work from anywhere in the world. I have students from all over the world, which just enriches the class so much. And I went, wow, well, that's really interesting. So then I was a part of that. Half my classes were online and half were in person. And that was my first sort of foray into, we're part of this global world now. We're all connected. Like that's what, the computers and internet have done, is that they've just shrunk our world. And so it's creating this different mindset of, well, I can start exploring work opportunities someplace else in the world. And this whole work from anywhere, I think, is just so exciting. And we aren't even anywhere close to what it can be yet. And so to me, the pandemic just kind of pushed all of that. And what's interesting is, so many businesses want their workers to come back now and be back in the office in person. And I'm thinking, we are missing such an opportunity here. This is going to be such cool stuff. And I think of my children and my grandchildren are going to have opportunities that we just never, ever had in our workplace. I mean, I think of, just my love for travel. And I go, oh my goodness, I could be traveling all over, speaking all over, like, yeah, exciting, really exciting stuff. So that's a big part of it. And then we also need to understand just that, just like the war in Ukraine, right? What happens in one country over here has an impact globally. And so that's another piece that we need to be able to understand, that we don't just live in our little city, in our little province, in our little country. We are part of the world, and what happens in the world impacts us. And so what does that mean to us in our business? If we have our own business and something happens on the other side of the world, how is it going to impact our business? We need to be able to understand those things much more now than ever our parents or our grandparents' generation did.
I'm glad you highlighted the global aspect of the work, because yes, it is happening already, but it's going to be even more so. And yeah, I was presenting for a school in Germany on the weekend, and something that I would never, to communicate with the German students, hear them speak in English. It was just an amazing experience. And there's more to come. Like you said, it's just going to get more awesome, where we probably would feel like we're probably in the same room with them, even more so.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have met people from all over the world. And when I was starting my practice too, I brought some of this mindset to it. And because I had joined NCDA, and I did that because I'd had an experience way earlier in my career where I had been sent on a big international conference, and there were so many people, and there was so much learning and everything. I went, oh, well, that's what I want to continue doing. So when I got into career development, I went, well, where are some of the biggest conferences? And so I went to the one in the States where I could, meet all of these people. And it was amazing. I met people that I had read about in textbooks, like John Crumboltz, and and Rich Feller and all of these people, and it's and Richard Bowles, what color is your parachute? All of these people, it's like I've been in the same room with them. Some of them have hugged me. Like, it's amazing. I just love it. And then from that, that just got me connected to a whole bunch of other people globally, and it's exciting. It just really is.
And yeah, I think you highlight with that the power of networking as well, to get your work out there, and get for people to get to know you and support your work as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I cannot talk enough, I feel, about the research you do. I imagine you spending hours and hours coming up with all the amazing content of your articles and presentations. And I thank you for highlighting those skills and getting us ready for the future. But many of my viewers are career development professionals. So I'm going to ask you to please, would you be able to narrow down and talk about the skills needed for career development professionals? I know you've talked about customer service, arts, technology in many of your presentations. So what would be the skills needed for career professionos to succeed?
Well, I don't think we're going to be, using drones anytime soon in our profession. But so there have been a couple of things. I did see an article once on how psychology has just barely scratched the surface of using big data. So in terms of those career practitioners who are real academics and who want access to information, learning about big data and how they can use big data in their research, I think is probably one of the biggest parts of the fourth industrial technology that's really going to impact us, or that would have something, sort of life-changing stuff. The only other thing I can think of too is AR, so augmented reality. So we might use some of that when we're working with clients to do some trainings and stuff. I'm not quite sure how that would look, but that's always a possibility. the biggest piece that I would have to say to career practitioners is I really encourage them to, because there's so much information out there, and there's a lot of general information, but I think you know and I know that our clients could really benefit from career practitioners who niche and specialize in different areas of career development. So for example, and I'll be doing I've done a presentation on this at CDAA a long time ago, and I'm actually doing one this year in a roundtable at NCDA. And it's about how career development practitioners can niche their business. So there's 4 different areas that career practitioners can look at specializing in. So one is just each individual area of career development. So for example, it could be interviews. It could be resume writing. You know, Wendy Endelou is a perfect example of somebody who's just really taken resume writing to like a whole nother level. Like, I don't have that expertise. She does. I can send people to somebody like her for that type of work. And then, you know, career planning, like I do, the job search skills, all of that, you know, so there's all these different areas of career development that different people can be working on to really help people. Because I know lots of times people will say to me, I need help with interviewing and interview skills. And I would just, you know, at the time I would send them to the government workshops because they would get a 2-day workshop on interview skills, be videoed, all of that. I don't have time in my practice and in the work that we're doing to do that piece too. So having those places where people can go and get those extra skills, I think is really important. One of the others is the demographics. Which people are you working with and what extra help do they need? You know, so if you're working with immigrants, what are the resources? What are the help that immigrants need in career development? Like that's a whole area of expertise in my mind. Or if you're working with people with disabilities, if you're working with people who've been incarcerated, if you're, you know, if you're working with Indigenous populations, like there's, you know, or the plus 50, or like you know, you work with young people and young adults. So really specializing and saying, what is it that we need and how can we help them more, I think is such an important piece of our work. Geography, so is another area of expertise. So I could specialize in career development around just what is happening here in Calgary and industry. So I could belong, you know, to the Calgary Chamber of Commerce and really get to know and talk with a lot of the HR people around Calgary. You know what our schools offer in terms of training, and then where people can go after that, where they can, different organizations they can network with. So I could become, you know, a Calgary specialist, or a lot more of a Calgary specialist, certainly, than I am. And then last of all, but not least, is one of my favorite areas is industries. I really think that, you know, you can become a specialist in an industry. I mean, wouldn't it be great if somebody wanted to, you know, wanted a career in healthcare, wasn't quite sure what they could do, and you had all the information, you know, at your fingertips. Here's all the programs at all the different schools, you know, in Canada. This is all the different places you can go. This is how you write a healthcare resume compared to how you would write an arts resume. You know, these are some different places where you can go to network with people who are in the healthcare industry. Here's where you could do jobs that are related to healthcare. So for example, sales in, you know, pharmaceuticals. Like, so it's not always a healthcare industry, but you'd be able to give people other options in case they went, I really love medicine, but I don't want to be a doctor. So what should I do? Right. So I really think that there's room for that in, you know, in every single industry. So when you just think about that, so like Willem Bridges said, look for the work that needs to be done. Well, there's tons of work in career development we can be doing that would benefit our clients. And so I think that that's the most important thing, more so than how technology is actually going to affect our career.
These are very insightful tips. When we're done, I'm going to go and revisit my services now, see how much of it I'm already following and what I need to catch up on. Thank you, Anne. My last question, to you, Ann, is we always advise our clients to professionally develop, and I know you do. You read a lot and embrace new challenges. What new challenges are you embracing in this year that you'd like to share with us and for us to look forward to?
Sure. I'm going to be doing a lot more webinars and speaking out to people. I've been gradually working on that all the way along, but I finally reached a point where I think I'm comfortable with doing podcasts. So just like yourself, you've got a bunch of podcasts. I want to do that as well, plus some webinars. I also want to do more articles because I think it's really important in the work that I do in the presentations. I'm reaching out some of the groups that I work with. So when we talk about disconnected people, some of the groups that I like to do work with is plus 50 workers. And then some of my midlife career changers have been post-divorce, and just some of the special nuances in working with people who are post-divorce. So I actually have reached out to a number of people in the divorce community, divorce lawyers and divorce agencies, and I'm doing some work around that. Definitely much more in industry and stuff. And just really bringing my work all together. I've got some projects for some books and workbooks, and yeah. I need to, so the technology I would love to do is I would love to clone myself so that I could get all this work done. You know, as William Bridges says, there's work to look for the work to be done. And I think I found way too much of it.
Well, you definitely have your glass very, very full. And I'm glad to hear that. And I'm glad to hear that you're not going to stop writing articles, because I always look forward to your insightful research, and how you collect all the data and put it together is very, very important, I feel.
Thank you. Absolutely. I love doing it. And so I really want to get it out to more people in lots of different mediums. So
that makes me very happy. That's very exciting.
Yeah.
So I usually ask guests to wrap up with some piece of wisdom or a quote or something that you wanted to talk about, but I didn't ask you.
I think the biggest thing is for anybody who is looking, and trying to figure out their place in the workplace, is it really is about working on our critical thinking skills, so I use Bloom's taxonomy a lot. So Bloom's talked about knowledge at the bottom. So I always work with my clients, knowledge of self, knowledge of industry, and career development knowledge, and then how you analyze that, evaluate that, and then you get to the really cool stuff where you get to be creative with it and finding all those neat jobs and work to do that's out there.
Thank you so much, Ann, for joining me today and sharing your expertise.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for asking me. I'm thrilled to be here. And as always, I look forward to connecting with you more in the future.
You've been listening to Hoda's Career Info, the program where career professionals from across the globe join me to empower you to succeed. It was a pleasure to have Ann Nakaska on Hoda's Career Info. I hope Ann's advanced career advice inspired you to prepare for the future. You can connect with Ann Nakaska on LinkedIn. Please remember that you can listen to Hoda's Career Info since it's also dropped as a podcast. To let me know if you are interested in an opportunity to talk about your work, you can send me a direct message on my website, rightcareerfit.com, where you can also sign up for my newsletter to stay up to date on the latest episodes. Remember to like, subscribe, share, and follow me on social media for more career info. I am your host, Hoda, and until next time, stay inspired and keep moving forward in constructive ways.